Da 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 Hoka hey baby doll do 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 na 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 Hoka hey oh BOOZHOO. Let's get serious here. BOOZHOO. And welcome to the show. Welcome back to BOOZHOO NANABOOZHOO, a podcast about Ojibwe language and culture. I am NANABOOZHOO. Over here, the lovely and the talented Natasha. Ikadon BOOZHOO ni weenie mushane. Say hello, my sweetheart. Hello, my sweetheart. And down there, oh wow, look, it's Michael Lyons. Hey everybody, how you doing? Oh, Michael, you forgot to put on my hand. I did, didn't I? Hold on a second, you guys. Hey everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Michael Lyons, and I forgot to put on my NANABOOZHOO glove. This is my live stream show about Ojibwe language and culture. I just got done doing a separate live stream where it was just me. And I ended up talking a lot about conspiracies. And so today, I think NANABOOZHOO, you want to talk about conspiracy theories? Yeah, I'll talk about conspiracy theories. Because, nobody respects a conspiracy theorist more than, I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, I'll talk about that. All right, now we're ready. Oh, nice hand. Thank you for the coffee, sweetie. No, that's no problem. Miigwech makere mashkiki wabu. Thank you for the black medicine water. Did you know that in Ojibwe, we thought of coffee as medicine?
You serious?
Yes, I'm serious. J. Jonah Jameson. I know, he laughs at everything. Yes, coffee was medicine. Because in the Ojibwe way of living, in the Anishinaabe Bamadiziyan, in the Indian life way, medicine to us was anything that made you feel better. It wasn't just, prescription drugs. It wasn't, let's go down to the pharmacy. I need to get some mushkiki. No. Medicine is what made you feel better. And one of the things we used to make ourselves feel better was known as the medicine wheel. The mushkiki de Tibesade. Mushkiki de Tibesade, sweetie. Yep. The medicine wheel. And if you're not familiar with it, I got a cartoon here of the medicine wheel. Now, the medicine wheel is divided into 4 parts. Huh, sweetie? You tell him, baby doll. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual parts. But the medicine wheel represents anything in 4s. And you might have noticed how everything can be divided into 4s. There's the 4 seasons: summer, winter, spring, and fall. Yep, the 4 directions. 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. What else? 4 stages of life. 4 stages of life: baby, child, grown up, elder. Yep. The earth, wind, fire, and dirt. No, that's earth. Earth, wind, fire, and snow. That's water. Earth, wind, and fire, and water. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Water. It's 4 elements. The 4 elements. Everything's 4s. But also the human being, the Anishinaabe, can be divided into 4s. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And just real briefly, I'll tell you what each one is. I always feel bad because I know that adults are watching and they're like, yeah, duh. I know this already. But sometimes there are kids who don't know yet. So if this is for the kids. Physical. This is your body. This is your physical body. How is your health? How much do you weigh? What's your diet like? How's your blood pressure? How tall are you? How big are your feet? These are all the physical things. That makes up 1/4 of a person. Another 1/4 of a person is their mental. That doesn't mean they're mentally deranged. It just means what's in their brain. Some people are mentally deranged and they think of bad stuff all the time. Mental is not your feelings. It's just, what do you think about? Michael Lyons thinks about, cartoons and guitar and Kiss and the show. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And weed. And, Natasha, you think about me all the day long. Duh. Me, I think about serious political matters. No. I don't know what I think about. But that's just what's in your brain. Then there's your emotions. Your body, your diet, and how you're built, and how you feel physically, and what you're thinking about are going to make you feel a certain way. Emotions. You're going to be happy, sad, scared, angry, jealous, worried. Remember that time we were in that school? I went to a school once and I asked the kids if they could name emotions. And they're really good up until 3. They went happy, sad, mad. Then the kids couldn't think of any more. And I was like, what about angry? Well, that's mad. That's good. How about shy? Is being shy a feeling? Like, oh yeah. How about being jealous of somebody? How about being worried? What about... And I noticed it was helpful to tell kids different kinds of feelings. Because if you can't name your feeling, you might not understand it. So then there's the 4th part is your spiritual. And a lot of grown-ups get this wrong too. They think your soul and your spirit are the same thing. People use that word interchangeably. But the spirit and the soul are 2 different things. As different as your physical and your soul are. So here's the deal. You are a soul. Jitjag. Jitjag. If you look it up in the Ojibwe English dictionary, if you look up soul, they're going to say injitjag. Injitjag, meaning my soul. But that sounds like you have a soul. You don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body. You have an arm. Yeah, it's part of you, but it's not you. If somebody cut off your arm, it'd still be you. 100% you. You just wouldn't have your arm anymore because you have an arm. You aren't an arm and legs and a head and a brain. Those are things you have. What you are is a soul. But your soul has a spirit. How about that? You ever hear of you'll see a bad guy in a movie with kids, and the kid will be like fighting against the Nazis or something, and the Nazi goes, oh yes, this one has spirit for one so small. Well, they're talking about the spirit. How much drive, how much not just energy, because that can be part of physical, but it's your goals, it's your passion, it's your love. Love is spiritual. Love, people think love's an emotion. No. Love is like you don't just decide to love after thinking about something, or you feel a certain way and then you have the emotion love. No, it's different. If you love your cat, there's no reason to love your little kitty. Yeah, he's cute, but whatever. You just love him. It comes from inside. That's a spiritual thing. It's hard to describe, but your spirit is the way, it's everything that's not physical, mental, or emotional. Anything left, love. I say passion, but that sounds sexual. But what's your passion, what you really care about? Music is spiritual. Prayer, talking to God, walking in nature, smelling the roses. There's a physical part to smelling the roses. But there's that spiritual part when you smell something, you suddenly smell, cinnamon rolls that have just been taken out of the oven. And for a second, it's no longer 2023. Now it's 1974. And you're in your grandma's kitchen. And she just pulled out some cinnamon rolls. Boom. You just had a spiritual experience. You were teleported back in time. So, Moshkiki de Tivase, the medicine wheel. Now let's say, I know you're like me too, huh, sweetie? What do you mean? Sometimes you struggle with your emotions and feeling depressed and worried about stuff. Are you kidding me? All the time. Yeah. Me too. Maybe you're like us. Maybe once in a while you get the blues. The blues. You get sad. You get depressed. You find yourself crying at everything. You can't stop thinking about the past. You hurt, your heart hurts, your tummy feels weird. You're sad, you're depressed. And sometimes it's not even because something happened bad. Usually something bad happens and it throws you into the pit, into the abyss of depression. But sometimes it can just be a physical thing. You gain too much weight. You've been eating too much sugar. You've been drinking too much alcohol. But usually what comes with being depressed, sweetie, is you also get anxiety. Yeah, that's true. Anxiety is being a worrywart. It's worrying about the future. Fearing the future. Oh no, what if I don't have enough money to pay for rent? What if I get kicked out? What if I end up on the streets? What if I end up one of those crouching people in San Francisco on drugs? I worry about that. And so going into a depression, you're really going into depression and anxiety. I call it going into the abyss. And you can fall down into the pit of despair. It's all dark and lonely and nobody loves you down there. So what do? Well, this is what I did. You pull out your Mushkiki de Tibisaid. You pull out this medicine wheel and do an inventory. Check yourself out. How's my body? Do I need to lose some weight? Am I getting enough exercise? Am I eating enough greens, kids? It doesn't matter what it tastes like. You gotta eat green vegetables for your mind, you guys. So here's how it works. Physical. If you only eat McDonald's and sugar cereals and you only drink, pop or energy drinks or whatever this crap. If you eat flaming red hot Cheetos ever, you're not doing your physical body any favors. Yeah, it tastes good for a second. Maybe it makes you feel happy for 30 seconds. But your food is your fuel, guys. I used to love pizza and chocolate and cookies and all this stuff. But when I finally, and ranch dressing, yeah, I drink ranch dressing out of a coffee cup. When I quit doing that stuff, my mind got better. My mental got better. Because when you're filled with a bunch of crap, like McDonald's, day after day, and you say stuff like, oh, hold the lettuce. I don't like salad. And somebody always says from the back seat, oh yeah, iceberg lettuce, there's no vitamins in that. It's like, yeah, it's not about that. You want to be able to poop? Eat some lettuce. But, when you're young, you maybe don't notice it right away. But you probably do. I noticed it. You got love handles? You got a couple of them love handles above your belt? Do you have to suck it in if you're wearing a t-shirt? Do you wear a hoodie zipped up halfway so nobody notices your love handles? That's because you're eating wrong. And that's going to affect your mental state. You're more likely to worry about stuff and to feel depressed if you eat sugar. That's what they never tell you. Like, oh, Snickers, it really satisfies. Yeah, sort of. It satisfies your sugar addiction. But as soon as you're done eating that sugar, you get that sugar rush, and then you get the sugar depression. At best, you might want to take a little nap. At worst, you remember how and your dad left when you were a little guy, or whatever dramatic thing you had to go through. So physical, do an inventory. How am I physically? If I'm depressed, you've got to make a plan. And it's not just, oh, I'm going to go get on antidepressants. Oh, give me a pill. Then I'll be okay. No, that doesn't work. You got to go on a diet. Drink water for every meal. Drink water with your morning coffee. Drink. Don't drink alcohol, drink water. Or coffee. Eat salads. Hey, here's a little tip I learned. Did you know you can make a wrap with a flour tortilla, spinach wrap? Just wrap it up. Eat it. No dressing. Nothing. It's not that bad. And it's healthy. You can eat that for breakfast. Start eating just raw good food. I eat hard-boiled eggs and spinach and flour tortillas and drink water. And yeah, I'm smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee, but come on, nobody's perfect. Get your physical state in order. That might be making you depressed. Then what are you thinking about mentally? Boys, I know this is embarrassing to talk about on a children's show, but I'm just going to say it. What you feed your mind is going to affect your body and your emotions and your spirit. We got a real problem with two things right now. A lot of us are addicted to. The first thing is video games. They're no good for you guys. You're playing. It's cool to play war. Go get some toy guns, get your buddies together, get on your bikes, ride out to the dirt roads and go in the woods, build up teams and pretend you're fighting a war, shooting, dying, blood, whatever. All the things that people hate us boys doing. There's nothing wrong with playing guns unless you're on a video game. Now you're sitting in a chair, eating flaming hot Cheetos, drinking Mountain Dew, getting fat, getting depressed, because you're playing this game where you're pretending to be like a school shooter. I mean, it's a first-person shooter game. You're just roaming the streets, shooting people, talking to somebody on your stupid headset. It's terrible for your brain. That's not good to put in your brain. That's going to affect your physical body. It's going to make you fat. It's going to affect your emotions. You're going to become bloodthirsty. Or you're also going to become callous to seeing violence. It's not good to be able to look at somebody getting shot, even if it's in pretend, and to feel nothing. And the other thing that's embarrassing to talk about, what we need to talk about, are the dirty websites.
You serious?
Yes, I'm serious. Oh, that guy. Porn. It's a weapon, you guys. They're trying to take us out. You know, back in the days of the grandfathers, these guys would go their whole lives without ever seeing a naked girl. All right? You're much better off. We got most people, most men actually are addicted. They have an addiction to dirty websites. And yeah, I had to give that up too. Just like drinking, sweetie. Really? Oh yeah. I found out it wasn't good for my physical body. Have you looked around how all the men seem like, lady boys these days? Tell me about it. Everyone's covered in tattoos and you can't tell the boys from the girls anymore. Well, the girls have turned into feminists, so they look like boys. But the boys look like girls and act like girls. You know, they're all emotional. Even black guys. You know how masculine a black guy is? Yeah. Not to sound racist. But if a man can't control his emotions, if he flies off the handle, even anger, he's acting like a woman. How dare you? But when men can't control their emotions, it's because they're acting like women. And this is because they've watched too much porn. That's really bad for your physical body, and it's bad for your mental body or your mental state. You know, men are ruined because, they meet a nice girl and they fall in love. They go out to the movies. Maybe they, call each other and have long talks. But then, sooner or later, he sees her in a bathing suit and she doesn't look like the girls on his OnlyFans channel or whatever that is. And he's like, oh, gross. You don't look like a porn star. Star? Yeah. These porn stars, these actresses. And also, I can't talk about this too deeply, but it's ruined everything. You're not meant to watch other people have sex. Here's another one, guys. All porn is gay porn. What do you mean? Because you're watching a dude. Really? Yeah. So whatever. Yeah, be proud. But if you're watching a naked dude, you're gay. I'm not going to go any deeper. I'm going to get my channel taken down. Anyway, leave that alone. Physical, mental, emotional. Now, what is spiritual? Everything that's not physical or mental or emotional. That's what spiritual is. Love. People think love's an emotion. No. It's something else. It's an energy. It's a way of being. When we're born, Gitchimanadu made a soul. And he gave that soul a body, and he gave it a brain that could fill it with ideas. And he gave it a heart. But he also gave it a spirit. Now your spirit it's the way your physical, mental, and emotional things express itself. It's expression. It's, when people say that they sing spiritually, yeah, that's not, you can't, there's an element of good singing. Like, oh, that person's such a spiritual person. But it's not that they learned how to sing so beautifully. Something comes out, your spirit. And a good soul can also have an evil spirit. I mean, everybody's good. But they can have an evil spirit because they watch too much porn, they got fat and alcoholics, and they're all emotional and angry. That can corrupt your spirit. Alcohol and drugs and stuff will blacken your spirit. Now your soul, you're still Gitchimanadu's child. You're still a soul, chichag, that has this spirit. John Trudell once said, you better guard your spirit because we're living in a place where spirits get eaten. Children have, there's a lot of spirit in this classroom because, that's how you describe, sometimes people say, well, that the spirit of what I had said was lost on the words or something. It's really hard to describe, but we all kind of know what we mean by it. Spiritual. When something is spiritual. Prayer is spiritual. Having a vision is spiritual. Here's a good one. You'll like this. What's that? Creativity. Creative people think, oh, look at that Michael Lyons. He's so creative. He can draw. He comes up with these funny cartoons. He can play the guitar and the piano, and he can sing. He's so creative. He must be smart. If you're creative, you're spiritual. You can't learn creativity. That's why there's no point in going to art classes, going to music classes. I mean, you can learn stuff in your brain. Everybody's seen, usually at church, piano players who have no spirit. They'll say, oh, there's no soul in your playing. Well, yeah, there's soul. The soul is playing it. What they mean is there's no spirit. When Aretha Franklin sings Natural Woman, there's something spiritual about it. It is so beautiful, and it connects with our spirit. And then spirit is also, a room has a spirit. That's the other thing. Indians talk about that too, huh, sweetie? About the spirit of the drum and stuff? Yeah. People think, oh yeah, the drum is sacred. It's got a spirit. Yeah, it's got a spirit. It doesn't have a soul. It's not a human being shape-shifting into a drum. But a drum has a spirit, has a certain tone to it. A good guitar has a spirit, meaning it has a good tone, it's built well. But also, you know, if it looks a certain way and feels a certain way, there's a spiritual aspect to a musical instrument. All musical instruments. A really beat up bass guitar, electric bass guitar, can have lots of spirit. You can play beautiful bass lines on an old beat up Fender. But in fact, I remember there's some bass players who pride themselves in their ugly basses because it shows the miles and the years that they, have traveled with this bass guitar. But if you ever play it as like a really nice acoustic guitar, a Martin or something, a $4,000 Martin with medium gauge, elixir, copper woven strings. Yeah. And you go, holy cow, this is a nice guitar. I remember the first time I got a nice guitar, and I'm talking like a $600 guitar. So to me, a nice guitar and a nice little practice amp with a chorus on it. Yeah. I plugged it in and I was like, suddenly I was 10% a better guitar player just by having good equipment. I went, man, everybody's a good guitar player on a guitar like this. So that's spirit. Hey, somebody's here, sweetie. No way. BOOZHOO. BOOZHOO. Real fresh. Oh, I like how you spelled that. Real fresh. We got a real fresh person here, sweetie. BOOZHOO. BOOZHOO. Art of war. Divide and conquer. Supreme excellence. Moral law. Oh, wow. Yin yang. Real fresh is laying down some truths. Nice to see you, real fresh. The art of war. Lao Tzu. Or how do you say his name? Lao Tzu, is that? Yeah, there's a lot of Eastern philosophy deals with this kind of stuff too. Michael was talking about the divide and conquer aspect of tribal identities. Do you want to talk about that? Nah, not really. Divide and conquer. Well, I just wanted to mention earlier, Michael was talking about how, before 1934, there was no such thing as a Leech Lake Ojibwe. They wouldn't even call them that in those days. 1934, they came up with the idea of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, which was also divided into little groups called, we're the Leech Lake Band of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. Oh, that's nothing. We're the White Earth Band of the Leech Lake, Minnesota Chippewa tribe. And then there were the Red Lakers. It's like, forget all y'all. They're up north. They're kind of rednecks in Red Lake. Is that where they get the name? Yeah. Red Lakers get the name Red Lake, not because of the lake, but because of their rednecks. They all speak with a southern accent. They're like, shit. We're from Red Lake. I can't do the accent. Y'all mind your own business, and we don't even want to be part of them. Minnesota Chippewa tribe. Hell no. But Red Lake never became part of the group of tribes. But the thing is, even Ojibwe isn't really a language. It's part of the Algonquin language group. And they divided all the Algonquin speakers into different little tribes, regions, separate, divide, and conquer. And this is also what's stupid about history. So before 1492, the way they taught us history was, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, discovered America, but America already had Native Americans. So they went to war with the Native Americans and stole their lands and put the Native Americans on reservations. The end. Well, no. I kind of doubt everything about that story. I doubt Christopher Columbus even existed. Yeah, how about that? You know? You guys want to question whether Jesus existed? I don't think Christopher Columbus existed. You know? There's less written about him. But, so they say that, and then, you know, there's always kind of that commentary in history. They go, oh, you know, it's a shame that the Indians couldn't band together and resist this small minority of illegal immigrants. It's like, well, it wasn't like that. This wasn't one big country full of Indians. There were human beings who were here who spoke many different languages. And some of the big percentage, not even that big of a percentage until recent years, but a big group of them spoke what we now call Ojibwe and Cree and a couple of different Ojibwe type languages. But in the Ojibwe language, in Ojibwe-Moan, which we also call Anishinaabe-Moan, Indian language, we didn't have a word for Indian. We didn't call people, oh, I'm an Indian, she's an Indian. Oh, here comes a white man. What? No, our word was Anishinaabe. And Anishinaabe just meant a human being, a person. Oh, look, here comes an Anishinaabe. Here comes a Dakota Oyate. Here comes an Anishinaabe from the Dakota Oyate. Here comes a person from the Dakota community, is how you'd say that. When white people got here, we called them Chimukaman. Chimukaman. The great knives. We didn't look at them and go, what shade of skin color are you? Stupid. You know how many tan Italians there are? But anyway, so we called them long knives because they had swords. We had these crappy little bone knives or whatever we used our knives out of. But white man came and they had steel swords, and so we called them the long knives. But our education, from boarding schools all the way up to present day public schools, which is Indians get the same education everybody else, they taught us this screwy idea of history that we were these roaming bands of merry Indians who lived in peace and harmony, which in a way we did. I know we'll get into that in a minute. But they divided us and made us identify as tribes. When back in the days of the grandfathers, yeah, people migrated around because of hunting and whatever. But it wasn't like there was a big community called the Ojibwe who had leaders, much like today, by the way. What do you mean? No such thing as an Indian leader. Oh, who's the leader of my race? Oh, here he comes. You know. Graham Greene. I don't know. Oh, here comes Winona LaDuke, our female leader. Where are we going today, Winona? So there's no such thing. We're not like that. But it helps to kind of brainwash people and make them think. They tried to brainwash us, and Indian people do this to each other too. We always talk about how, the Indian man, he wasn't an individual. He always thought about the community. And, we're tribal members. No, we're not. The Leech Lake tribe was invented in 1930s by the U.S. government to just kind of make a list of people that got, services and money and food and free stuff. Oh no, it was all our land. They didn't take, they couldn't give us what was already ours. Nope. You didn't own the land any more than Columbus owned this land. Nobody owns your land. That's stupid. You know, when the Chippewas came to Minnesota, they were Dakota living here. We didn't buy it from them. We just killed them off, ran them out, relocated them to North and South Dakota and southern Minnesota. But that's how they brainwash us all. Make you think of yourself not as all of us together, white and Indian and black and Mexican and Asian and retarded and handicapped and politically incorrect and politically correct and all that. Lewis and Clark, use of local guides. So they say. Who knows if they even existed? A new territory is acquired. It is still be divided for the solidarity of the state, which isn't for America. Yeah, no kidding, huh? Good point. Let me pull this out so I can read the whole thing. Kind of like Red Cliff and Bad River both were the same tribe from the same island, and the divide them between the Catholic and the... Yeah, Red Lake was like that too. And the Protestants. Yeah, Panema. Is that the name of that place? One group of Red Lake went to the Catholic boarding school. Yeah, Red Lake had their own boarding school, by the way, you guys. That also screws up our history. Oh, the evil boarding school wouldn't allow us to speak our language. Right here in Red Lake. But whatever. And then there was the other group of Protestants. You know, they brought in Christianity and then divided that into little groups. And now it's laughable. I don't go to church anymore. But I went to a little reservation church here for a couple of years. Muka'am Bible Chapel, they called it. Muka'am is Ojibwe for sunrise. And it was a very modest little building right on the edge of Cass Lake. Beautiful little part of just past the casino, about half a mile. A lot of history there. My grandmother used to go to the summer camp at Muka'am Bible Camp. And so I was happy to go there and be part of my family's history. And I thought maybe I'd learn something about Christianity and the Bible. I had a lot of family members going there. Not a lot. I had 2 or 3. But thing is, Cass Lake, I don't even know the population. But there are enough churches in that stupid little town so that everybody can go to a church with no more than 20 people. There isn't like the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church and the Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever. There's like 20 different little stupid denominations of Christianity, and nobody even understands their own Bible. It's the blind leading the blind, but also the blind divided. You know, there's no community. Even like the powwow community. That's a small minority of Native Americans who bother to go out to the powwows, who listen to powwow music or walk the traditional path, you know. But those are all like our mental ideas. We got to get back to our spiritual and, you know, the commonalities. Indian is short for indigenous. Yeah, I like that. Indigenous is just the latest term. You know, I remember when they started saying, "Don't say Indian, that's racist," because Columbus, you always blame everything on Columbus. Man, I haven't even gotten to the conspiracy theories yet. So when I was a little guy, they told me that Columbus was going to prove the earth was round because everybody thought the earth was flat. But Columbus was so smart. He was going to prove the earth was round by heading west and returning from the east. He was going to find a westward passage to India for silk and spices. Huh? Okay. That sounds dumb, but then he got here and he thought he was in India. And he was like, hey, look, whole bunch of Indians. And he walked up and goes, hi, my name is Columbus. I just discovered this land. Are you guys Indians? And the Wampanoag of the Bahamas said, no, what's an Indian? And he goes, oh, come on, you guys are Indians. And that was when the term Indian was born. Years later, they would go through Native American, first it was American Indian to distinguish between Indian Indians and American Indians. Then it was Native Americans. Then it was, did it go right to Indigenous after Native Americans? Somewhere in there they called us people of color. Don't call me a colored person. Well, you're a person of color. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Just don't call me a colored person. You know? Yeah. But then eventually in the 90s, they're like, Indigenous. And we all went, remember that blues band? I don't know if you guys have. For a while there was a band, Indian band called Indigenous. And a lot of us guitar players went, doggone it, they stole it. They were the first guys to get to call their all-Indian band Indigenous. Because remember that one band I was in with those 3 other Indian guys? The Foreskins? Yeah. You couldn't call yourselves the Oh yeah, for a while there we were calling ourselves the Skins. I liked that. When I was in college, Indians just called themselves Skins. That was short for redskin. And they were just like, are there going to be any skins at that party? But yeah, and then eventually became Indigenous. And I liked Indigenous for a while, but now I kind of think, well, Indigenous sounds kind of like you're a plant or an animal. This roaming creature was indigenous to this part of North America. But we don't know. Nobody knows where we came from. Can we trust historians who tell us Christopher Columbus was going to prove the earth was round? You know, they tell us, oh yeah, we migrated from Niagara Falls. Says who? What evidence do you have? Lewis and Clark? Was there a book written about him or something? Most of us just know about Lewis and Clark because of Walt Disney movies. Or some overweight Bachelor of Science degree earning licensed teacher in your public school. Nobody knows. We don't know anything. Nobody knows anything about history pre-1940s, I would say. Because there's so much just stupid misinformation, propaganda out there. You can't trust anything. But, I don't know, sweetie. What are we gonna do? Well, we were supposed to talk about conspiracy theories, but now we're running out of time. Yeah, you're right. Do you want to get up here? Well, sure, I'll get up there. I'm going to turn the show over to Natasha. But first, Michael Lyons. Hey, everybody. Sorry I haven't gotten around to my conspiracy theories. I thought I was going to talk about the flat earth and Bigfoot, because that's what I was talking about this morning on my last live stream when it was just me. I've got to go get Natasha. But yeah, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. Stuff I thought I knew were lies and propaganda from my education. And I don't know. Sometimes it makes me question what I think is true now, which I think is part of the divide and conquer. You know, they tell us lies for so many years. And then when you start to discover that they lied about something, they'll make you feel like a crazy person for questioning the official story, or or you'll make yourself feel like, well, I used to believe in the moon landing. You know, I really believed. I watched those videos and I listened to the news people and I didn't question my science teacher. And I believed they went to the moon. But also I was kind of brainwashed because they let you believe part of the story, but they won't talk about the whole story that makes you question it. So most of us grew up kind of going, you know, yeah, they landed on the moon in 69, I guess. And we kind of know, yeah, they went back a few times, because one time they brought back a car. So there's at least twice. But then when you really look into it, you go, oh, they went back 6 times. In how many years? 3 years is the official story from NASA in history. That create a narrative. Exactly. Thank you. Everything is a narrative they've created, whether it's history or science. And it's got an agenda to screw us up. But the moon landing lie was easy to believe when it was just a one-time thing and it was only 6 years ago. So when I was in elementary, and by the way, I stopped believing in the moon landing by the time I was a junior high person. I'm just going to say it. If you still believe we went to the moon and you're an adult, you've obviously not looked into it, because nobody can be that stupid. If you still believe, the best I can say for you is that you just never think about it. So yeah, I believe it. You know, it's like me, do I believe they bombed Hiroshima? Yeah. I don't know. I never think about it. When I have heard people question whether or not nuclear weapons exist. When I looked into it, and it goes back to Einstein. Oh, there's a movie out now about, I forget what it's called, but the guy who allegedly invented the nuclear weapon. Well, it's nonsense. Hiroshima was never nuked. But I never think about World War II. So I would say I believe everything I've heard about World War II. Except I don't believe anything I've heard anymore. But the moon landing, when I was a child, and it was something they claimed to have done just a few years ago, and we were pretty naive. In fact, nobody even talked about it because there was only half an hour of news a day. You know, it's understandable to believe in such a story. But in 2023, if you still believe that we went to the moon, and I hate to say we, because obviously we didn't do anything, that some group of people conspired to build a flying ship that looks exactly like a bottle rocket, that they shot it out thousands of miles away with people on the tip of it, and somehow steered it and landed men on a ball of rock that's floating in airless space with 1/6 the gravity and blah, blah, all those lies. And then shot off from that moon and then reconnected and flew back to Earth and then parachuted into the ocean. And then 6 months later, did it again with a completely different crew. And then 6 months later, did it again with another different crew. And 6 months later again, and 6 months later again, and 6 months later again. In a span of 6 years, no, in a span of 3 years, from 1969 to 1974. No, 1972. From 69 to 72, they went to the moon and landed on it 6 times. It's so stupid that I'm forgetting the details of the lie. And then packed it in and said, let's not do that again. And now it's 55 years later, and nobody from any country has ever done it again. And you still believe it. And when I tell you I don't believe it, you smile and laugh at me. You're either stupid or so brainwashed, which is what I think. I used to have a friend who's a college-educated professional father of 2, who, even after I've explained everything, and it's amazing that he had never heard of the conspiracy theory of that we faked the moon landing, still wouldn't buy it. Still believed that we went to the moon. It's like, why do you believe we went to the moon? Humans can survive in low orbit, but that's as far as we can go because of solar radiation, is what they've told us. Hey, Jim's back. How do you know when it's the can of soup before opening it? It goes back to that, is the cat alive or dead in Schrodinger's or whatever that guy's name. So NASA told us that the Van Allen radiation belt can live past Earth's magnetic field. When I was a kid and I believed in a ball Earth, they said, and NASA said too, that there's a radiation all around the ball Earth that you have to get through. Dangerous radiation, so they have to have special shielding on the spaceship, or everyone would die of radiation poisoning. Then they don't bring it up again. But because in recent years they said, well, we can't get to the moon because of the Van Allen radiation belt. And nobody asks, well, how did they do it in the 60s? Let's see. Humans can survive in low orbit, but that's as far as we can go because of the solar radiation. Well, there's no such thing beyond low orbit, is the thing. So the whole model, the thing about the moon landing, why it's significant and why it's important to know that they lied about it, isn't just, these crazy politicians trying to win the race. Is that the lie was they had to do something because John F. Kennedy said we were going to do it. Before that, scientists and stuff could tell all kinds of stories about outer space and come up with theories, like Einstein and stuff. Einstein was pre-moon landing. So he could talk about the theory of relativity and light speed and what happens when you go so many light years away. That's all 100% bullshit. There is no outer space. There is a dome over the land. I don't know how high up, but the Bible describes the earth as being a flat, immovable place. The Bible does not talk about God setting the earth in its spin on its axis and moving it in its rotation around the sun. What it describes is an immovable thing with a dome over it. And above the dome is water. And below the earth is water. In Genesis, put a dome in this, or put a firmament to divide the waters above from the waters below. That's not metaphorical. Firmament, a firm thing, we would call a dome, holds water from coming in here. I picture us being in a snow globe in a lake or an ocean or whatever. I don't know what's beyond the water. But, so they faked the moon landing because that would be the one thing that could prove we lived on a ball Earth. The first photograph, and only photograph NASA says they have of, or had of the Earth for 50 years, was the one photograph everybody's seen that's on every science book and on your Apple iPhone. Not your Apple, whatever. The Earth, in fact, do I even have that picture? There were two pictures taken in the Apollo moon missions. One was not taken until the last Apollo moon mission coming back to Earth, Apollo 17, I think, when they took the full, like a full moon picture of the Earth, and they called it the blue marble. One of about 6 photographs they claimed to have taken from the moon was this one. They call Earthrise. They claim this is a real photograph, you guys. Now, my former friend saw this picture and couldn't admit that it was fake. I don't know if he couldn't see that it was fake or if he was under some kind of brainwashing trance that doesn't want to admit that they were fooled. If you can't tell that that horizon is just fake, just cut out. You don't even have to be into photography. That's not how the Earth's horizon looks. That's, if the moon was what they say, it wouldn't look like that. And then the Earth, since we have nothing to compare it to, maybe you could believe that was a picture of the Earth. But if you think that's the picture of the moon, of the ground on the moon, somebody took a picture while they're standing, I don't know what to tell you. You know Chris Hicks? I've never heard of Chris Hicks. Who created the waters? God. Okay, let me back up. Hey, Vincent Zach is here. BOOZHOO, Vincent. Well, I'd like to introduce you to Real Fresh, new to the show. All image from space are just computer simulated. Yeah. And they'll even admit it. And the average person on the street kind of goes dumb when you say, no, we don't have any photographs from space. The Hubble telescope doesn't take photographs. People think there's a satellite that was launched in the 80s that is sending back photographs of deep space. You ever see that one picture where it says, next time you take yourself seriously, just remember, and they show a photograph of the Milky Way, and it says, you are here. And they show one tiny little dot and then the huge Milky Way. You're like, don't you feel insignificant? It's like, yeah, that's what they want you to think. They want you to think not only are you insignificant, the whole Earth is just a speck of dust, meaningless. And since there was no creator, just random, and there's no point. But when you give up all that, when you realize they lied about that, and then you realize, holy cow. Number one, if somebody is willing to lie about that, that's real evil. But if there actually is a dome, and again, people who've looked into this know, Antarctica isn't a continent on the bottom of a ball. What they call Antarctica, the globe is stupid, but there's an ice ridge around all the oceans. If you look at the flat map of the United Nations, or what they call the flat Earth map, there's a ring of ice around it that holds water in. But the only treaty that's ever been honored in history, we all know the native treaties, what those are like. But there's one treaty that every country signed in the 1940s called the Antarctic Treaty. And the Antarctic Treaty said nobody would ever explore Antarctica, and you can't just go there, and there would be no development. They discovered the continent of Antarctica like they discovered America, but it was a place that had no people. It just has penguins, and it's super cold and big. And to this day, nobody has explored Antarctica. You're not allowed to go there. There's armed military. But if there was a way that we could get to the edge of Earth and put our hands on a firmament and see water on the other side, we would know that a creator exists. We should know that a creator exists just by looking at grass. We can't invent grass. There is creation, so there has to be a creator. But we would realize if we could get to the edge and document that the firmament is real, that would disprove everything about outer space. They would say, yeah, we're not on a ball. We're not floating in a vacuum. Stars are not suns billions of miles away. The idea of a light year is stupid. All of that's a lie. Suddenly everybody go, holy crap. Okay, I'm living in a place that was created by a creator. I was created by a creator. All the different questions come up. Now it's not just about, we live and then we die. Might as well just eat delicious foods and have sex as often as we can. That's what they want us to be like. But if we discovered that God was real, everything changes. Papa Rick. Papa Rick Wagoish. So still on this topic, earthlings are easy. Yeah, no kidding. Vincent Zach. BOOZHOO, Vince. Oh, I already said hi. Firmament means spiritual realm. No, it doesn't. Firmament means firmament. It's like saying dome means spiritual realm. The Ojibwe word for in the heavens is Abian. Ojibways knew there was a firmament. We talked about the sun and the moon being the same thing. In the sky, grandmother moon, grandfather moon, grandfather sun. The sun and the moon, Dybbuk, Gizis, and the Gizis. Indian folk stories talk about you could climb to the other side of the sky and get out and stand on top of the sky, like on the other side of the dome. There's Indian stories where there was a crack in the dome that let in the wind and the birds from the other side. We talk about the spirit world being on the other side, but the firmament is not the spirit world. Anine, ever go to an observatory and use a high-powered telescope to look at celestial bodies? I took a what do we call it? I learned a lot in this class. I didn't even know what it was called. We had a planetarium in my college, and so when I took the introductory class to science, space, whatever it was called, I saw a lot of videos and photographs of stars. I've seen NASA images, renderings of what they call celestial bodies, clouds and stuff. But, and the firmament does have, it almost looks like a crack or a welding where there's a whole lot of stars kind of clumped together. We've seen that just with our own eyes, like you're in the lake late at night, away from city lights and stuff. And you see the stars aren't just the constellations. They're the constellations, of course. But when you can really see all the stars, there are certain groupings. And some people have theorized that there might have been an opening or a crack or something in the firmament that let in water at one time. And then it was sealed up again by what looks like stars to us. Something kind of like a great flood in the Bible, where they said the windows of heaven were opened and water came in. A flat earth model is totally consistent with any Bible story you can think of. Spinning globe earth completely contradicts the Bible. And that's why it's such an effective tool at deceiving people. Jim says, or used an electron microscope. I've never used an electron microscope. In the Bible, there is no mention of God creating the waters. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, God's face was over the deep. Is that true? Maybe he didn't. I mean, obviously he created the waters. But yeah, it seemed like there were already waters. In the beginning, there was nothing. God said, let there be light. Yeah, before he created light, there was just darkness over the waters of the deep or something like that. That's interesting. What's the shape of a RGB pixel? Exactly. You pull up those pictures and you realize they're just whatever. Let's see. What's the shape? No, they want us foraging off bugs because standards of living need to be decreased. Yeah, I think you're onto something there too. I feel like, not just me, a lot of people are feeling like we might be heading for another great reset. You know, before the Bible story of the flood, they say it was a time of great wickedness, and people had turned against each other. Even in the Ojibwe story of the flood, which I also think is interesting, there's a biblical story of a great flood that wiped out everybody. There's an Ojibwe story that begins after a great flood had wiped out everybody. A lot of different oral traditions have a flood story. Some people will say, oh yeah, human beings everyone has a creation story because that's just what people do. But why does everyone have a flood story unless there really was a flood at some point? So I believe there really was a flood that killed everybody off. And I also believe that we see evidence of it in all these buried cities. Every city is buried. You know, we all have old buildings that are the basement. There are windows that look out into half of the street. Where we can't explain, why did they build this building with the doorway underground, you know? We don't know anything. It's all lies. But, especially when it comes to history. But it looks like there was a flood at one point that buried everything in sand and dirt. Like even the pyramids, you know, they just discovered the pyramids under a bunch of sand in recent times, like in the 1900s or something. But it was the story that when I believed in science that made me stop believing in the Bible. When I became I'm talking a fifth grader probably. Yeah. What year did I saw Space Oddity as a kid, or Space Odyssey as a kid. But Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. and all that stuff was all, Star Trek. So I was a kindergartner when Star Trek came out. All these programs were just propaganda to make us love science. And every day in school, you have an hour of science education. And some of that was useful. Like, what temperature does water freeze at? But most of it was just talking about how great scientists are. The weird thing is, I learned about the scientific method when I was in school, and how you have a hypothesis, you do an experiment, and you either prove or disprove your hypothesis by the experiment. Scientists have said if it can't be proven by experiment, it's not true. But when anything comes to space, and everything they talked about, light years and how planets are formed and what happens in a black hole and stars and the moon landing, none of those things can be proven scientifically. We just have to take their word for it. But by the time we grow up and get through school, we've been taught not to question authority at all. Don't question the teacher. Don't question your coach. Don't question the law. Don't question your politics. Certainly don't question science. If you're going to question science, because this was the big thing too, where I scoffed at Christians. When I was a kid, the big debate, and Natasha just did a whole thing on this, how stupid evolution is. But the debate when I was a kid was, which is real, creationism or evolution? And they always said, no, educated people, science says. And so they kind of suggest that science has proven. There's a scientific experiment that was done, and this is why every scientist agrees that there was a Big Bang that created planets and stars, and then there was evolution, that we evolved from a single cell organism into plants, which evolved into fish, which evolved into mammals, which evolved into birds or whatever. And then the science would also speak for the religious people, and the religious people were so stupid and didn't understand. Well, religious people didn't believe their own Bible. That's the problem. The debate got lost because religious Bible believers didn't really believe in the Bible. They thought the Bible was stories that were probably true historically, but not the Old Testament. They didn't really believe in Adam and Eve. So I stopped believing in the Bible, especially because of the flood story. Thought it was hilarious. The idea that he made it rain for 40 days and 40 nights and everybody drowned. And I started making jokes. It's like, what about the fish? They must have been fine. Were the ducks okay? I think ducks could have survived a flood. Why did Noah have to get 2 of every duck? Did he have 2 fish in the ark? Just started laughing. One of my first comedy routines that I memorized was Bill Cosby's Noah's bit. Voompa, voompa, voompa. Noah. Voompa, voompa, voompa. Noah. Who is that? It is me. It is God. Am I on candid camera? So the mocking of the biblical story, because it contradicted science. was my first kind of conspiracy theory. No, it wasn't Santa Claus. In fact, I'm going to let Natasha talk about Santa Claus and the moon. These are all conspiracy theories. They conspired to disprove the Bible and disprove the story of the flood. So are all fossils fake? Yes. No, I mean, there are fossil records of fish and rocks. You know, you can see the thing. That's really an imprint of a fish in a rock. And the fish has disappeared, but he left that imprint. Those are totally real. The idea that we have a machine that can tell you how old a rock is, that they've somehow put little radiation Geiger counters and they went, this fossil is from 100,000 years ago, is laughably stupid. That's why dinosaurs are laughably stupid. I don't believe in dinosaurs. They never existed. It's a lie. Because even their story is they've never found a completed dinosaur skeleton like they have found completed dinosaur or completed giant skeletons. Giants were real. We have full 30-foot tall human skeletons that the Smithsonian has. And papers they've done news stories where a farmer finds a 30-foot skeleton in Missouri. And the government comes and digs it up and brings it to the Smithsonian and they lock it away and there's never a museum of human giants. Every city has, I don't know about every city, but there are lots of dinosaur museums where they found something they thought was a Tyrannosaurus rex tooth. And then through science, constructed what they thought a Tyrannosaurus rex looked like. This giant lizard with hands that can't feed itself. You ever see a Tyrannosaurus rex? It can't reach its mouth. What are its hands good for? It's ridiculous. If evolution was real, it never would have, but everything they claim about dinosaurs, which also aren't mentioned in the Bible, again, disproves the Bible. So you can either believe in dinosaurs or you can believe in the Bible. And don't give me that, well, what about dragons? So yeah, Satan was called a dragon. Dragons are real. Demons are real. Dinosaurs that roamed the earth before humans were here and fed on God only knows what, and died when a rock hit the planet that made the planet freeze, is stupid, childish. And I used to believe it too. I don't mean to insult you if you still believe it, but you can't. You're brainwashed if you still believe it. So with your naked eyes, as you observe other planets, what were their shape? Excellent question. With our naked eyes, we can't see other planets. We can kind of see a red light, what they call Mars. If you zoom into the planets, or the wandering stars, as they're also called, they look just like different kind of stars. It looks like you're looking at something through water. Maybe you've seen it. You can Google it. Stars do not look through a telescope anything like what they look like when NASA makes a painting. So all this stuff has been censored on YouTube in the last 5 years. But there was about 5 years there where every day I learned new stuff about real science, from YouTube. Just regular people sharing pictures of what a star actually looks like. Debunking ideas of ships going over the curve. There are no videos of ships going over a curve. Our naked eye, it looks like a ship goes over the curve. In the same way, when a person's walking away, if you ever played football and you're lying on the ground of a football field and the team is walking down the field, if you can picture this. It's going to look like their feet are sinking into the ground because they get smaller. Or just like on the side of the road, the way the telephone poles get smaller. That's what's happening to the ship. It looks like it's... But now that we have cameras, now in the last 100 years, you can zoom it in and see that it never goes over a curve. Nobody's ever documented a curve anywhere except these fake photographs. That's the only time you've seen a curve on the earth. They say that curves, 8 inches per mile? No, it doesn't. So are all fossils fake. Tar pits in California. What about them? I remember hearing that, oh yeah, they found dinosaurs in tar pits. But it's like, okay, why is it that fish fossils, the bones and stuff, all disintegrate after 100 years, but there are dinosaur bones that are supposed to be millions of years old that were somehow preserved in tar? Just the bones? Or was the flesh also preserved in tar? But also, anything you hear from the scientific community or the mainstream media, these are the same people who lied about going to the moon, who lied about there being a pandemic, who lied about how many genders there are. It's all nonsense. And there's only 2 people watching. That's why I'm just talking so freely, you guys. NanaBOOZHOO and Natasha talked a lot about some pretty forbidden topics. And part of me, I don't think I'm that special because I'm not that popular. I'm not at all popular. I can't imagine them censoring my show. But before, when I used to never talk about the earth being flat, and I never had Hitler as a guest on our show, I was getting like 100 views. And in the last 3 months, it's just you and a couple of knuckleheads. Maybe I'll save Natasha for next time. And this has been, I did call this show Conspiracy Theories, right? I'm sure my coffee's gone cold. All right. Let's call that a show. You guys, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate having somebody to talk to. And tune in again tomorrow. We'll be back, this time with Natasha. But you have been watching BOOZHOO NANABOOZHOO, the podcast about Ojibwe language and culture. My name is Michael Lyons, and I'm a conspiracy theorist. Miigwech Gabizandawiyag. Thank you for listening. And I will see you again. Giga Waba Min Minowa Hoa.